there's a lot of that too in the 80s for me. It was, I hate to say, I got into a lot of trouble, but I had a lot of fun too. I had a lot of fun.
That's what being young is all about,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And is this true? You met Roseanne when she came to see you during
I did. Yeah. In 1983, I'd moved up from Iowa to Minneapolis because Minneapolis had 5 comedy clubs, and it was a big city. And I moved up there because a guy, excuse me, a guy came down and performed with me at the Iowa Student Union, the Wheel Room, our place there. And I opened up for these real comedians from Minneapolis. And what would happen is all my buddies would come in. First of all, we drink Everclear Punch, which is Everclear and powdered Gatorade. 50 of my friends would come in and watch me. And then we'd all get up and go partying, and there'd be nobody to watch the real comedians. So a guy that owned the Comedy Cabaret in Minneapolis, Scott Novotny, he said to me, if you get your friends to stay for the real comedians next time we're here next month, I'll give you a job in Minneapolis doing comedy. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'm in. And so we did that. And then I got on a bus with a trash bag full of clothes and $100. And I took the bus to Minneapolis, and I went to the comedy, the comedy, whatever it was, and knocked on the door. I said, I'm here. I don't have a car or driver's license. And I saw, and I have $100, so I got to stay somewhere cheap. I need an apartment cheap. And he's like, why? Whoa, whoa, whoa. I said you could have a job. I meant one weekend for
right.
$17.50. I'm like, shit, I'm out of, I moved here. And so I went to there was a bar there, a famous, really cool bar called Williams Pub. And I walked down there, and they were looking for a bouncer, and they were looking for bar back, and I immediately got that job. And one of the waitresses was looking for a roommate. And then I just stayed in there and stayed in there. And I sold sandwiches. I did whatever to facilitate getting to stages on night. That night. After a couple of years, I was able to, support myself doing that. But when I first moved there, one of the first things that happened, the guy that owned one of the other clubs really liked me. Uh, I tortured him though. He weighed 700 pounds, and he would he would get on stage. He'd be the MC, and then he'd leave the stage, and I'd grab the curtain and go, "Scott, you forgot your pants." But he'd say, "Please don't do that. My wife's here," and but like she doesn't know, but he called Scott Hansen said, listen, this woman I saw in Denver, she's coming to town. You guys are going to hit it off. So I want you guys to work together this weekend. And we really did hit it off. Roseanne was so funny. I'd had seen you know, uh, a mom, be that funny and and the best part of all, she thought I was funny. And as you know, we know we're good looking, but if someone says we're funny, then they got us. And so that first weekend, we tore it up. We tore it up on stage, but we tore it up. We borrowed, there's a woman named Liz Winstead who started the Daily Show, the show that is on Comedy Central. She's great. She's great. She's a comedian. She was the MC, and we borrowed her car and never brought it back. And but we hit it off. And then I started writing. She said, "Write jokes for me," and let's do this. I started writing jokes I'd never written for other people before, but her character was so well defined, it was easy. And then she said, "I'm going to go on Johnny Carson. Can you write some jokes?" And I did. I watched her with my friends back in Minneapolis. My friend Roseanne was on Johnny Carson. This is 1985, and she killed it. She killed it, and it was cool. It was also cool to think, oh, I could write for someone, and then they could do, you know, and so in '87 or '86, I went out to play Roseanne's husband on a HBO special, which turned out to be a weird thing, and it was great. And then in 1988, at the end of '87, they're putting together her TV show, and she wanted me to write it. So in January of '88, I went out there to write and on the show, and there you go. There's a million other things. First of all, after the pilot, there was a writer's strike, so I had to go back to doing those little, driving all over for the little, gigs around. Everybody kind of did.
The life
Uh,
of a comic, right?
yeah, yeah. But I will say this about the writing of, because I didn't know that Roseanne liked me. You know, I knew that she was going through a bad divorce stuff, and I really loved that she had kids. You know, I was like, this is a mom. You know, I grew up without a mom. I was like, this is a mom. I really dig how she does this, and she's out there, she's killing it, she's tough, and so I wrote a lot of jokes, you know, back in the day that were fat jokes, as we call them, and they're funny. And then at one point, when I moved out to LA, she's like, I had a list of jokes, and she used to do a lot of fat jokes, and I go, here's the jokes. She's like, yeah, could you cut the fat jokes in half? Like, and uh, and I realized, and that's, I found out later she said that because she liked me, and but man, she had, you know, she had so many great jokes. But you know, then she's like, yeah, this is not. Our relationship has changed in a, you know, a little bit, but it was a great opportunity. I got to work with great people. The second year, because people knew that Roseanne and I had been dating. By the way, I moved to LA with my fiance from White Bear Lake, Minnesota, who Roseanne knew, and
Wow.
because you're moving out there, and of course that didn't work out. And then Roseanne said in '89, "Hey, listen, nobody likes either one of us. We should get married." And I was like, "That's a great idea." And so, you know, it was great fun. It was great fun. There's a lot of great, you know, great creative things, great fun.
Do you think, I mean, like, it sounds like you guys had very similar personalities in your comics. It really was the mom. Like, was that really like a huge thing that attracted you to her, the fact that she was a mom?
Well, I mean, yeah, that she kept it together. She was a mother. You know, she had a great relationship with her kids. You know, and then she was out there just killing it doing comedy. She was so freaking funny, and her material was so good, and she was fearless. And you know, that was a big turn on for me. You know, one time she was performing in Atlantic City at the Miss USA contest at during the same time, and she came out on stage in a bikini with Miss whatever on it. Like that takes some balls. Like that is about the funniest shit ever to me. And so I really, you know, uh, we both, I think at that time we both probably needed each other. It was, you know, because she'd never met a guy like me. Like I came from the meatpacking plant. Like I had her back, no matter against who, no matter what. And especially when the show started and they kind of messed with her, I just didn't have the finesse to. And I would say, uh, it's her show, whatever she wants, and she's very good. And so if you're going to argue with me or her, it's going to be a problem, like for you. Like physically it's going to be, and people were kind of terrified, but eventually I learned to be that the way to work with folks like that is bring in half of my buddy, half of people I do comics trained in to be writers, Norm Macdonald, people like that, people that I lived with, and then get another executive producer that respect, who will bring in guys. The other half of the writing team would be how people with you know, experience in Hollywood, and we
Right.
meld them together, and that's really what was the success of the show was, you know, these great writers melding together, because you could teach a like comic like Norm Macdonald, guys like that. There were so many great writers who have gone on to huge things, but if you're a comic, you know, you just know that person is funny. You can tell who's the funny comics, who has a different point of view. And it's easy to teach someone to write a script because there's just a form, you know, first act, whatever, credit tag.